guys, and welcome to the World of Witches Museum's Bardic Circle, where we tell wacky stories and tonight jokes. I'm your host, Melissa, and I have a story for you that I have sort of been waiting to tell all day. I cannot make this stuff up. So my muggle job is nannying, and I was once asked, what's the difference between nannying and babysitting? And basically, nannying is what the babysitters call themselves once they're out of high school, so they don't sound as depressed. And I have to arbitrate a lot of fights between the kid I sit and his cousin. And the cousin runs up to the door, because I'm inside with the baby. She runs up to me and she says, "Melissa, Zachary hit me with a stick. He's beating me with a stick. Make him stop." And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I call Zachary over. And Zachary comes, dragging this massive stick. This thing is like a Switch on steroids. And I'm like, "Zachary, did you hit your cousin with that stick?" And he just gives me the this perfectly innocent look and just said, No. It was a smaller stick." And that was my day. And that's the day in the life of the nanny job. So, now that I've opened it up, I'm going to grab Fox, and she's going to tell you a story.
Why?
Because I say so.
But all of my stories are kind of for older people.
Do we have anyone here watching this show that isn't older?
But they all involve alcohol and jumping across roofs.
3 words. Joseph Campbell Study Group.
But Lexi's here. She needs
Lexi!
Jokes. So
The jokes thing was actually Lexi's idea, so we cannot let her leave without telling jokes. So.
Alright. Hi. How you doing? Nice to meet you. What's up? I've got to get going soon. Yeah. So I'm just stopping in real quick. But I couldn't go without, jumping in groups and sitting on the table. Of course. That's what I do best. So, tell them. Okay. So I got a joke. Let me get all comfy up here. Hopefully this doesn't fall. Tell them, not me. I'm not the audience. You're the study group.
I'm listening attentively.
It's not a study group, it's an open mic night. Oh, open mic night. So I only got one joke, and it's dirty. So, if you're offended, oh well. So, what is worse than breaking the bed during sex? Shit.
I don't know, Lexi. What's worse than breaking the bed during sex?
Being asked to leave the store afterwards. Oh. You stole that from Jeff. No, Jeff stole that from me. Well, somebody stole it from somebody. I've heard it already. Tracy. Okay. Fine. I stole it from Tracy. Okay, close enough. Yeah. But that's all I got. That's it? Yeah. One dirty joke. Yeah. I got nothing. That's it? Yep. Jeff found parking, so I gotta get out of here. Found parking? Then why doesn't he come in? Because he's got things to do. Okay.
Tell Jeff he's a poop.
He is. I know. Oh!
Tell him he's a poop and he has to bring a musical instrument next week and play.
Oh, you got bongos over here, man.
We do have bongos. So next time we can do beat poetry and rubber open mic night.
Bye-bye. Ta-ta for now. Have fun.
Alright, so in my travels, last week, I was up in Pennsylvania in this wonderfully ancient house. It was an old colonial, it had secret passageways, and it looked like somebody had crammed the entirety of the Antiques Roadshow into this house. There were Civil War musket balls in my bedroom.
Just hanging out in your bedroom, or?
A little thing with a tag on them. But yeah, basically.
Okay.
My mattress was here, the Civil War musket balls were here.
Okay, but they were like in a...
Yes.
They weren't just like hanging out like
Yes.
we're musket balls and we're just hanging out on the floor like
No.
child's marbles.
I did find a child's marbles though.
Just hanging on the floor, or also
No, they were
in
in a treasure chest.
Oh.
This house was amazing. But in this house, I happened to find a joke book from 1945.
Okay.
And a lot of them were really bad.
Yeah. Do you have any for us?
I have a fondness for cheesy jokes. So I've got 2 that I would like to share. This man storms into his lawyer's office all in a huff. He's been trying to collect a debt from somebody who just won't pay up, and he goes on this whole rant and rave about what he's got to do to get his money. And the lawyer says, all right, so what did the guy say to you when you went and talked to him? And the guy says to the lawyer, he told me to go to the devil, so I came to you. Okay. And then the other awful cheesy one was a little boy sitting in his second grade classroom, and his teacher sees that he's got his hand raised, and they're talking about ethics in the class. What's right and wrong? And he says to the teacher, "Teacher, do you think it's wrong to punish someone for something they didn't do?" And the teacher says, "Of course, little Johnny. That's an awful thing to do." "Oh, good, because I didn't do my homework." They had weird senses of humor back in the 40s.
I guess so.
But those two amused me. I have a fondness for cheesy things and awful puns and things like that.
I like cheese too. It's delicious.
Cheese is delicious.
Alright. So, I guess I'll tell a story.
Tell a story.
Alright. So this is one of my stories that anybody who knows me for any length of time kind of either knows by heart and requests often, or that this is how they kind of meet me. So this is a little piece of my personality, and it's... Don't tell my friends that I told you guys this story.
We're posting this on their Facebook afterwards.
No! I will also be referring to everyone in the story by code names. This is not their real name.
I have heard of her friend many times, and I still don't know any of their real names.
All of their code names actually refer to a different story. So, one day you might find out why they're called by these names. Alright, so, our story begins one, actually not so stormy, I want to say it was sometime in the summer. I really don't know the time frame of this. So, one not so stormy night.
It was during college for her. It was all kind of a haze.
Not really a haze, just a blur. And it was a friend of mine's birthday. And so he invited us over to his apartment to just enjoy shenanigans like college kids are wont to do. And I don't remember how old he was turning, but he had just recently gotten out of like a 4-year-long relationship. And he was not doing well. And he'd been out of it for about 9 months at that point, and so his roommates kind of figured he should be over it. And he was. He was trying to move on. But he'd been in a 9-month dry spell, and he was starting to get cranky. And so his roommates decided that for his birthday, they were going to get him laid. Which is a smart plan. All of his roommates, well, 2 of his roommates were dudes, 1 of them was a lady. And so they invited all the girls from their college to this party. My friend was not aware of this plan, so he invited all of his friends from high school, which were a bunch of dudes, me, and the Human Torch, who's a lady, in this story. She's a fantastic, busty redhead, and now you can have that image to go home with. And she's a firecracker. That's not why she's called the Human Torch, though. So we all get there, and it's just a handful of dudes, me and the Human Torch. And by the time we get there, our friend is already half-basted. And legitimately so, because he was preparing for his party. Not very well, mind you.
Let's say for argument's sake this is his 21st birthday party.
I don't remember what it was. He could be going on 22, 23. He's older than me. And so he's already pretty cocked. We get in and we're just like, "Have you been drinking all day?" And he's like, "No, at least it's 5. And we're just like, okay. And so he says, "Alright, this is the layout." And so he says, "Alright, so Jello shots are in the freezer." By the way, don't put Jello shots in the freezer. Because they get crunchy and awful. And so we looked at it and he says, "Unfortunately, I was playing the game of a shot for the Jello, a shot for Tony Stark. A shot for the Jello, a shot for Tony Stark." Not a good game to play. And so when he was making these, they get of an increasingly alcoholic variety, which surprisingly went along with the US terror ratings. So the more likely a terrorist event was going to occur in the color scale, the more alcohol was in the Jello shot.
So, like, a code yellow was, and then
a red was mostly Jello.
Mostly Jello.
No, mostly alcohol.
Mostly alcohol.
Blue was mostly Jello.
Okay.
And so we had a couple of them, and certain people found out that they had a higher tolerance than they thought. Those certain people were me. And so the party begins, and we move on to the night. Unfortunately, as college parties are wont to do, whenever there is a large quantity of women in one locality without enough guys to balance it out, guys start hearing about this party and show up. So the ratio kind of evened out, and a lot of people that were invited showed up. Very small apartment, lots of people. Although it did start off with a lot of girls. And a lot of these girls smoked, which is a bad idea, don't do it. And as you may or may not know, girls have a tendency to wear nice clothing that looks good on their bodies. Usually this clothing doesn't adapt well to holding on to cigarettes, or wallets, or car keys. And so that's why they have purses. But of course, you don't want to hold on to your purse when you're at a party because you'll lose that. So they hid that in their coats, and they put them in the rooms, and but they still wanted to know where their cigarettes were so that they could go out for a smoke. I was the only girl with cargo pants, and ended up being the holder of the cigarettes. This point is important. Remember it for later. And so I just had cargo pants full of cigarettes, and continued on with my night. And then, the best human being in the world showed up at this party. A gentleman whose name... Oh, I need to make up a code name for him.
Usually the one whose real name you use.
I usually use his name. I don't know what to call him. I'm going to call him Johnny Appleseed, because I have nothing better to call him.
Okay.
So Johnny Appleseed shows up, and I actually don't have a story for Johnny Appleseed, I just made it up now. So Johnny Appleseed shows up, and Johnny Appleseed is one of those guys that you never want to show up at your party. He's that guy that ruins it for everyone. Everyone. And he's scary to boot. I really don't want to tell the story about why no one wants to hang around with him, because it's a little long.
Why don't we just tell the roof jumping and say he's scary?
He's scary.
He's scary.
And so he's also a party jumper. So he's already been to a whole bunch at this point. So he's already tanked. Like, worse than Tony Stark is tanked. Bad.
Tony Stark is the friend who's having a party thrown for him.
Exactly.
Not Iron Man.
Right. I'm not friends with Iron Man. Sorry, guys. And it's actually this party that got him the nickname Tony Stark. And so, of course, he's got different levels of drunk. And right now, he is at Spider-Man drunk. Which means that he thinks he can web sling places. He goes like this, and then pulls himself up like a mine on invisible web slings. It's hilarious and awesome to watch. He also starts to like waver a bit, and whenever he feels like he's going to fall over, he web slings himself back up. Which is amazing because it's not actual web slinging. So yeah, he has a good time.
You're sure it's not actual web slinging now?
I'm positive, because you can't, unless it's invisible. Which would be a talent in and of itself. He should make an invisibility cloak if that's the case. Knit one out of the webbing. So yeah, he goes on, so he's at the web slinging phase. We'll find out about the other stages later. And so Jonathan Hickey shows up, and then...
Appleseed.
No, Johnny Appleseed shows up. And Johnny Appleseed... we need to edit that out. And Johnny Appleseed says, shows up, but he's not that unclassy that he'd just show up and drink everybody else's booze. He shows up with a box of wine.
How classy.
Because he's that kind of guy. And in case you guys would like to know the math of a box of wine, it's roughly 2.5 double bottles of wine, which means that it's roughly 5 bottles of wine. And he says, here you go, and we put this in the refrigerator, and he says that it's open to everybody. And the 3 classiest girls at this party decide that that's what they're going to be drinking. Those 3 classy girls are yours truly, the Human Torch, and a gay Asian. All the rest of the girls are too busy with the vodka. And so we all grab cups of this. Human Torch decides that this is not for her because it's just too low class, and I end up with it. So I'm double-fisting box wine because I'm that kind of girl. And don't do this at home, or anywhere really. It's a bad call.
This is a learn.
This is a cautionary tale.
Yes.
Don't do any of this because bad things could happen. And they do. Oh, do they? And so the night wears on. And as a barometer on how the night's going, Tony Stark slips into the second level of drunkenness for him. And that second level is when he is Tony Stark. What, is the second level Tony Stark?
No. I don't remember. This is your story.
Yeah.
It is now.
It is now. So the second level is when he's Tony Stark. And he starts calling everybody and telling them, and he says, I'm Tony Stark, and I'm an alcoholic. Which is something that Tony Stark has to do, because he was an alcoholic, he had some problems, he went through rehab twice, and comic book nerds know. Comic book nerds who want to elaborate on this, please post a response video, we'd love to know more. I'm not really a big Iron Man fan. He is. So yeah, that happens. And so he's wandering around the party. The girls are not digging this. He's striking out everywhere.
It takes a certain kind of crowd of girls to dig the comic book guys.
None of them are that kind of girl. So the night wears on. And as the night wears on, the box of wine empties. I would like to point out that the 3 glasses that I mentioned with the 3 girls were the only 3 that were imbibed by anybody but Johnny Appleseed. Johnny Appleseed proceeds to leave nothing but 1 bottle left in the box of wine. That means that he's had roughly 3.5 bottles already, being not so well off. So you can tell that this kid is not having a good night. Well, he's having a good night now. He doesn't later. He isn't exactly at the highest tier of cognitive abilities. And he decides that he wants a cigarette, but he doesn't have any. At which point he shouts out in the middle of the party, "Ah! Which means I want a cigarette. At which point he kind of gets tossed around the party until he finds his way to me, the girl with pockets full of cigarettes. At which point I respond, I personally don't have cigarettes, but you can ask the girls here, and if anybody will let you have one of their cigarettes, I will very gladly give you one of their cigarettes. Human Torch is sitting right next to me, and she says, he can have one of mine. By the way, smoking is not cool. It's not good for your health, as we will see with Johnny Appleseed in just a moment. Mm-hmm. And so we decide that we need to bring him up to the roof in order to let him have this cigarette, because you can't smoke inside. You have to go up to the roof. And people that live in apartment buildings kind of understand that concept.
Except for the ones that don't and give us 3 a.m. fire drills.
Don't be that guy. So anyways, we decide that he needs to go up to the roof. And obviously I need to go with him because I'm the one who just gave him the cigarette. The guy who owns the apartment, Tony Starks, thinks that he needs to go upstairs to make sure that this guy doesn't fall off the roof because he's not doing well and there are no railings. And then the soberest guy at the party, which is one of his friends from high school, goes up as well because obviously the 2 drunk people trying to take responsibility aren't really going to help. That sober guy is. And so we all go up to the roof and we're watching him. And we're, sitting around chatting about old times and how life has been and, being friends and just watching Johnny Appleseed hang out. And so, one of the most cinematic moments of my life happened on that roof. Johnny Appleseed was standing there with the light hitting him in just such a way that his entire left arm was entirely in the light. And 1 sliver of his right eye in kind of a triangle shape. And it was in his left hand that he had the cigarette. And so you could see his eye kind of glazed over, not really focusing on anything. And then he would bring the cigarette up to his mouth, inhale, his face that was otherwise cast in shadow would glow in orange, and you could kind of see the retarded stupidity going on. And then he would take the cigarette down and exhale, and his entire face would be clouded with the smoke, including the 1 eye that you could see in the triangle, except for 1 single pinpoint gleam. It was very film noir. I loved it. For all of the 5 seconds that it lasted. When he gets down to the end of the cigarette, he takes a final drag. His face glows 1 last time. He brings it down. Exhales. There's a pinpoint gleam. And we hear, ever so quietly, him mumble, in a surprisingly coherent fashion, "Catch me." and flicks the cigarette. Before the cigarette hits the rooftop, he's disappeared. And we have no idea what just happened. We all look at each other and say, did you just hear what I think I heard? And then we realize that he's 3 rooftops away, and he just keeps going. At which point we turn to each other and think, now we need to go catch that guy. So all 3 of us turn and book it. We realize about halfway through the north end that just chasing him over the rooftops isn't going to work. We need a strategy. So we circle up, and Sober Kid says, Tony, you catch the right flank. I'm going to catch the right flank. Wanderer, you go back, catch him at the doorway. We'll pull him back to you. So I run back to the doorway, and they go to flank him and draw him back to me. I get back to the doorway, and I think to myself, how am I supposed to get this guy, who is twice my size, down the stairs? And of course, I'm not thinking too good. Because I'm not...
She's 3 glass of box wine in. And whatever else.
So much red shots. Not a good time. Not a good idea. You don't think good on alcohol.
Cautionary tale, ladies and gentlemen.
Cautionary tale. So needless to say, he comes barreling towards me. Somehow I managed to magically, with like some sort of kung fu instincts, grab him by the shoulders and guide him down the stairs. At which point, just his sheer momentum helps me guide him the rest of the way into the house. We get him inside, we put him on a futon, and just the sheer exhaustion of doing all this, he just conks out. The rest of the night moves on, people do stupid things, and just shenanigans ensue. Bad decisions are made, and it's a college party. And that is the Johnny Appleseed story. Was that sufficient?
That was sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright. Well, that was the Bardic Circle of the Night, and I hope to see you all next Friday. Maybe get a few more people in. Hopefully next Friday we'll do get some music.
Yeah, and if you guys want to participate in this Bardic Circle, you can always leave your dirty jokes in the comments section, and if you have a kind of so-so story that you'd like to share with us, definitely make a repostable video and repost it to this. We'd love to watch it, we'd love to hear your stories, and we'd love to share it with the community. Oh wait, you have pagan dirty stories, pagan dirty jokes.
Oh, no, I have pagan light bulb jokes.
Pagan light bulb jokes.
The only one that comes to mind right now is how many Dianics does it take to change a light bulb? Just one, and it's not that funny.
There you go. And so if you guys have more pagan light bulb jokes, comment section. The comment section is not the bongo drums. It's below on the YouTube side. But you can also put them on Facebook. We love Facebook.
Got one more light bulb joke.
Another light bulb joke.
One more light bulb joke. And this one I just made up on the spot.
Okay.
So it may stick. How many Corellians does it take to change a light bulb?
Oh, I know the answer to that one.
Depends. Are we counting the ancestors?
Okay, that's a good answer.
And it always adds.
It takes actually 5.
Five.
1 to change the light bulb, 1 to preserve the old bulb, 1 to write it in the book of life, 1 to officiate it, and finally Don to visualize it all happening all at once.
That's a lot of Corellians.
Yeah.
I was actually told that to it by Pete Pathfinder Davis at the Aquarian Tabernacle Church.
Really? That's our light bulb jokes. Oh. Fantastic. Alright, so next week we're going to be doing music. I will not be here.
I may bring in a couple of verses of the pagan old-time religion.
Yay!
People saying that there are literally like 6,000 of them.
Yeah.
I thought they were joking. I went online and I looked them up, and there are like 6,000 of them. And apparently most of them were written from the back of Phaedra Bonowitz's microbus.
There you go.
Yeah.
Alright, so that's it for Bardic Circle, Dirty Joke, and Story Night. See you next week for music.